Guys, this episode is with Annie Lobert. Are you kidding me? Who would have ever thought that these kind of interviews, that these people of such caliber would even come on this show? This has been one of the most amazing things to me ever. Annie Lobert is someone that I have talked about for years and have actually referred people to her ministry for years and years because I'd always heard about how powerful and how impactful it was. And never in my dreams, whenever I send out an invitation inviting her to come on this show, never in my wildest dreams did I think that she would actually write back and agree to do it. And not only did she agree to do it, but she's one of the coolest, absolutely one of the coolest guests that we've had so far. And she is a living legend. And I'm so excited for you to hear her testimony and just really hear about what God has been doing in her ministry and her life. Now, I am going to say, as you guys know, on this show, I really avoid editing absolutely as much as possible. And so I think there's really only one episode. The only episode I've ever really had any editing any parts out other than like boring lulls or anything like that have been with Jonna in episode 3, which is an interview with a friend from the Middle East, and that was for security reasons. Well, we're kind of in a similar situation with Annie, where she did not realize that whenever she jumped on Zoom that we were immediately starting the interview, and so there were some things that we talked about before that were just too sensitive. They were things that are not supposed to go out in public, and so you are going to notice, or you may or may not notice, that there is a little bit of editing in this episode, just in the first few minutes, and I just edited out a couple of things that I thought were they weren't appropriate to just put out in public and on air. And so that the rest of everything is all intact, but just for the sake of, we still want people to keep coming on this show, right? We still want to have good, powerful visitors and guests to come on this show, and that's not going to happen if we put things on that they didn't want us to put on the show. So for those of you who have been listening just regularly, who are faithful listeners to this show, I just want to avoid you writing in and be like, hey, there's clearly some cuts in this episode. Well, that is the reason why. It is because of honoring our guests. It is very important to honor and respect the people who they take their time and they make sacrifices to come on this show. Annie didn't get paid to come on the show. We don't have any money to pay anybody. All of our guests, all of the awesome guests that we've had come on, they're doing this for free. And so we want to make sure that when they come on, this show is a blessing to them as much as it is a blessing to us and a blessing to you. And I also want to announce, I did the interview with Sam Childers, who I've been talking about, the machine gun preacher. He's going to be on the show in just a couple of weeks, and that is going to be so powerful and so awesome. I'm so excited, so stay tuned for that. And also the episode after this is Katie Beard, who is just a really good friend of mine. She's been in missions for a long time, has a lot of missions experiences, encounters with God, and really powerful things that you're going to want to see and hear about. And so make sure you check it out. Also, Annie has been doing everything, right? Annie Lobert, she's got a TV show, she's got a book, she has just interviews, she has a podcast, she has a TV show, all kinds of stuff, documentaries. And so just as I always say, all of those links are going to be in the description, in the bio, and of this. And so just make sure you check them out. You can click on Amazon. These are all affiliate links, so I do get a little bit of what's the word, like not residual. I get like $1 for every, I don't know, $10 or $20 of products that are sold on Amazon. So if you want to buy something, please do it on Amazon, because it helps this podcast out, helps us keep bringing in new guests. Also, if you haven't already, subscribe, because there are a lot more people watching this on YouTube and listening on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher and all those, Spotify and all those things. And so, but we're getting more subscribers every day. But if you want to make sure that you get the little notification that this is happening, because we have more and more awesome guests coming on, make sure you actually subscribe to the channel and you click notifications and all, whatever it is. Everything is different. I don't know all the different channels that this goes out on, but I just know that there are more and more people listening. It seems like every week we're hitting a new high with more listeners and more watchers. And so make sure you subscribe. And also, if you listen on Apple, iTunes, or anything where you can give like a rating, please give us a 5-star rating. And if you really want to show some love, write a little description. They do the little reviews and talk about how awesome this is. If it's less than 5 stars, just don't put it, because That's counterproductive because we want to grow, but we need more reviews, because having more reviews and having more subscribers, it helps us get bumped up a bit more, and get more people involved in this and grow our little community. So thank you so much. I know you're going to enjoy this. Be blessed, and see you on the other side. Hey, Annie.
How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Hey, wait, your t-shirt. OG, original gangster. You better watch out, somebody.
It's OG
I'm
revival
so
carrier.
I'm sorry. I'm late because I was eating my, you want me to turn it sideways like this? Is this better?
Yeah, that's good.
And I'm going to change my little angle. I'm glad we're not super live yet.
Yeah, we're not.
Perfect.
Yeah, this is all pre-recorded, so you don't have to worry about that.
Oh, good. Oh, wait. Now, darn it. Look what I just did. What did I just do? Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can
Oh
still
my
hear
gosh. Why is this thing? What is this thing doing to me? Oh, there. No?
Yeah, your video is gone, but I can hear you just fine.
Okay, there we go. I pressed the wrong button. That's what I did. I'm having a little bit of a, oh my gosh. Okay, so there's that. Now hold on. I have to adjust myself.
Okay, no problem.
And I got to turn this because I'm standing right now. There we go. I know my hair. Okay, listen. My hairdresser did my hair the other day, and I told her to make my blonde purple, and I said just light lavender, right?
Yes.
And she left it in because I said, oh well, I want it really dark, like to where it's dark lavender, but the kind that but it'll turn light later. Like it'll literally turn. Where's my camera at? Where am I looking at? Right here? Wait, no, here. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Where it's light lavender. And so she left the dye in, and all she did is rinse this part out. Of course, the rest she colored, but I think it looks really cool. And it's supposed to get a lot lighter, but I have to film the pink chair in about 2 weeks. Actually, it's about 13 days from now. So I want my hair to pop the way it looks right now.
Right.
And just a little lighter because it'll wash out. But I love it because I make myself totally unique.
I know. I was telling my wife the other day, because I knew the interview was coming up. So we were talking about you, and I was like, she always has awesome hair. And
you know what? Hold on. I'm going to open up this curtain with the light. Hold on.
Okay.
I love lights, by the way. Because if I have my lights, I'm happy.
You have a lot. Your bookshelf behind you.
Yeah. Well, I have my little, it's just my little bling, and I can't really see it now. I'm gonna have to turn this one down a little because I like natural lighting. So that's why I opened up my curtains, and I think I'm going to should I shut those off? Hold on a second.
Yeah, natural lighting is always the best. I'm actually, because my wife and I were missionaries, so we're always in host homes. And so we're in a house right now, and we're here in, where are we? We're in North Carolina in the Outer Banks right now. And so I've got all these, this room is a little bit dark. So I was opening up all the windows and trying to get it to brighten up a little bit, but I can't seem to get any brighter than it is right now.
But you're a guy, and it doesn't matter. Guys always look the way they do. And so it doesn't. Now, are you going to use some video at all or not?
Yeah, I'm going to use video.
Oh, good.
I put it on YouTube.
Watch this. Should I do this? Just kidding. Look now. I got this turned up to the highest level possible. I'm just pretending.
What are you using? Are you using like a ring light or? Because I just got a ring light. My mom got me a ring light, which I think has been really nice. Because, go ahead.
My eyesight's really bad, so I can't see what I look like. It doesn't matter.
You look fine. You look purple.
I do?
Lavender. Yay. Lots of lavender.
Good. Let people love it, because not only that, I have blue and purple and pink in here.
Yeah, so. I saw an interview. I think it was the what was the name of it? I watched I Am Second. I watched that. That was, everything you do is super intense and super bright. And
you know what? The I Am Second, my hair was red underneath, and then that's the first time I put pink in my hair. I had like 2 little pink, they were actually hair pieces.
Oh, really? Well, I thought, I'm trying to remember if it was that one, but you had all, I noticed your fingernails were all, each one was a very bright different color. See, there you go. You always, you're very, you have a lot of details in the lavender. I love the name of your podcast too, the pink chair and all that, because you
Have
use,
you seen that? Have you seen the video for it yet or
oh
no?
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I listen, I have,
I'm sitting in like I have 3 velvet pink chairs at our studio at CTN, and I designed the studio set. So even though, I mean, you only can do so much. Like you can't, like I would have loved to have something bright. Actually, I might change it, put screens behind it, make it even brighter.
well, you're
And
someone, you have so much favor. I remember I heard about you several years ago. I was in Panama. I've been a missionary in Panama for 14 years. And I was there at an international missions
Panama.
conference. And there was this team that came up and they were doing a presentation on human trafficking. And afterwards I came up and started talking to them because I've always been interested in people's stories. And I said, so how did you get involved in this ministry? How did the Lord call you? And they said, oh, well, there's this ministry in Las Vegas and it's called Hookers for Jesus. And that inspired us to do this ministry. And now, of course, I've never heard.
You know what is so crazy? And you know what we should do? I want you to share that story because I don't understand how many people, because I stepped out and I started sharing my story, there were no ministries like ours, no sex trafficking, nothing. And now it's everywhere.
Yeah.
You know that, right? Like
Oh,
every
yeah,
city you
yeah.
go into, there's a sex trafficking ministry now. There's a sex trafficking org. It's like, whoa, even more than that. There's probably 10 or 20 per city or more. So
Yeah.
I definitely, okay, so we should probably start because I want to talk about this because I like people to know that when you start something new, don't be afraid. And you're going to influence a lot of people to start something that's going to help the general good of the entire world, not just yourself, because it's not about us.
That's right. That's right.
You know that it's not about
Yeah.
us.
Oh, I know. I'm so excited. I'm so thankful that you were willing to take the time to do this and everything.
Oh, wait. Can I get my tea real quick? I
Go
just
for
want
it.
to grab it. It's in my bag. Hold on.
Absolutely. Go for it.
I have a problem with my tea that I love, my addiction. It's called Iroten Koicha, Oicha. It's yeah, it's tea, but it's got no sugar. It's from Japan.
Do you drink that? Do you drink kombucha?
Mm-mm.
I see. I just heard about that. I never heard of it.
I don't like the taste of it, but maybe I should do it because I heard it's really good for you.
Yeah, there's a woman that my wife and I have been staying with for a couple months up in Pennsylvania, and she makes her own. And it looks like a placenta in a jar. It's one of the weirdest, grossest things I've ever seen. It's super gross.
Oh, come on,
anyway,
guys, are you serious? Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Now, hold on.
Okay.
So tell me what you want me to, or whatever. I don't know what you want me to not say, but like, if the way you want to interest me. Annie Lobert. Don't say Lobert.
I know. I learned that. I learned that Annie Lobert, which you're married to the legend Oz Fox. I mean, that guy,
yeah,
I have
just
loved
call him
Striper.
Ozzy Bear.
Bear. Oh my goodness. I have loved Striper for so long. Whenever I found out you're married to him, I couldn't believe it. You are also a legend yourself. And for me, it's one of those things. It's an honor for me to be able to do this interview with you because I have heard about you for years. Like I was saying, I heard about you at this conference in Panama and looked up your ministry and everything you do, kind of like your hair and all the lights behind you and that unicorn that's there as well.
Of course, that's my signature right there. It's in the Bible, by the way. Don't forget that. The word unicorn's in the New King James Version Bible.
Really?
Did you know that? Yeah.
I did not know that. Wow. Where is that?
It might be King James Version. Yeah. What it really is it's referred to the rhinoceros.
Okay.
That's why they call it a unicorn because of the one horn. So
okay.
Pretty ingenious, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so I mean, you have so much. You've got your mini series, Hookers Saved on the Strip, which that was a few years ago that you did that. Which that's intense. That was so good, and I was kind of bummed there were only 3 episodes. Do you think you'll ever do more?
I don't know. We're probably going to be doing something else along that nature on maybe a different channel, or I'm talking to a bunch of film people right now. So I have not decided to do in particular a series, but I know people are asking me, but the autobiography the film of my life. I think I have like 5 different people this past couple months that have emailed me and said, can I do a film of you? And I'm waiting for the right opportunity with the right person.
Yeah, that would be
So
so good. Yeah, because your book, I read your book, which, by the way, how is it pronounced? Because it's spelled Fallen, but you got the name, which
Fallen's good.
Fallen.
Fallen. Yeah,
Okay, because in the book you talked about how you took that name from the TV show Dynasty after a character,
that's
which I
right.
believe is Fallon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just curious about that.
Emma Sams played her and she had an English accent.
That's
She's
right.
so beautiful.
So
Yeah, I
so
loved her.
oh yeah. So for the listeners who don't know you, could you start us out just by sharing your story that way, and then we'll kind of go from there. Just share your testimony about how you came to the Lord, just your life in human trafficking and prostitution, and your story, please.
Well, it's funny that you say that, share your story and how I came to Jesus, because the whole time, and I want everyone to listen to what I'm about to say, the whole time I was in trafficking and in the sex industry, I had professed at 5 years old that I believed in Jesus and that he was the Son of God and that he died for my sins. And I asked him to forgive me. At 8 years old, I had kind of a deeper relationship built with him because my brother and I were going to a Christian school called Trinity First Lutheran. So I didn't necessarily not know God. Let's just say I was the prodigal daughter. I left home and I told my father, which not my real father, but just in spiritual sense, hey, I'm not ready to be in this family right now, this God family. I'm going to leave and do me, and I'll peace out with y'all. Peace out. See y'all later when I'm ready to come back, because I'm not doing God stuff right now. That's exactly what my heart was thinking. Like, I know a lot of us that are now believers will admit this. Oh yeah, I told God I wasn't going to serve him until I was ready. Well, when are we ready? That's what I want to ask. When are we actually ready? My heart wasn't ready to commit, and neither was my mind. Even though I wanted a relationship with a man and I wanted to get married and have children, I thought that that was the meaning of life first, right? Before becoming a missionary or a nun type of person, right? If I was a Catholic, which I was never a Catholic, or a person in the church that would serve others and bring others to Christ, do a homeless ministry, or reach out to hurting people that are mentally challenged, and, whatever it is, the poverty people, right? So I just thought to myself, like, I'm going to leave, because my whole thing was, I know that my daddy, my real daddy, was an alcoholic, and he had gotten sober when I was about 3 years old. But my dad never healed from his very painful past, which was a lot of abuse and a lot of gaslighting from my grandfather, and a lot of mental and physical abuse. And he was only there half of my dad's life growing up, because my grandmother, she was a tough lady. She kicked him out. They lived in Chicago. Whenever he was drunk, she would tell him, you're not allowed to stay here, get out. And so my daddy, of course, part of his life had no father. Now, I don't know if anyone knows this. Psychologically, your brain does not form the same way as a child that has a full family available for them, that they're present mentally, physically, and emotionally. When your father's not, or your mother, or it could be both, there's abandonment issues that happen. There are complex trauma issues that happen. And that's anytime someone does not feel safe and they repetitively are in a dangerous atmosphere where there's no stability and there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of uncertainty and instability, right? And so my dad passed that down to us kids. Even though my dad, he never left. He always had a job. My mother always had a job. My dad would come home and rage, yell at my mom, yell at us kids, hit my mom. Hit my mom, blood would come out of her nose. She'd get black eyes. She'd go to work with black eyes, marks on her arm, chokes on her neck. And that was normal for my family, but it was super embarrassing. I didn't let anyone know about it. So growing up in that household can create this vulnerability in a child like me to want to search for love outside of the home because there's no love in that home, even though I know my mom loved me. And instinctively, and this sounds insane to some people, well, if you knew your dad loved you, I knew instinctively in a deep part of my heart that my daddy loved me and that there was something wrong with him. Like, he was dyslexic. And I didn't find this out until probably about 2 or 3 years ago, till after he died. He died in 2006. I found some writings and I said, Mom, why is Dad's writing so small? I said, and some of the letters are backwards. I can barely read. He goes, oh yeah. They think he was dyslexic. Wow. Never got treated for it. Did you know that dyslexia is actually a symptom of child abuse?
No, I didn't know that.
It's trauma. It can happen. So learning disabilities, right? My dad never graduated high school, but yet everywhere he worked, he became the boss. They would elevate him to the next position. Then all of a sudden he was in charge of everybody. He was a maintenance guy. He could fix anything. He could literally, like if an AC unit was broken, if a forklift was broken, if, anything was broken, a stove in the facility or in the warehouse, he would just, boom, take his tools and whip it up. He was so smart, like super intelligent when it came to that type of like a genius. In fact, before he died, he had a clock business called Chet's Clock Repair. He repaired antique clocks, grandfather clocks.
Wow.
Wind-up clocks, turn of the century clocks. And my mom still has a couple hundred of them, by the way. She's trying to get rid of them right now. I said, Mom, that's your retirement, just to let you know. She knows. So, and unfortunately, no one's buying antiques right now, which is really sad.
How's she trying to sell them?
She won't let me put any of the ads on eBay for her. She just lets people come and look at them and sells them.
Oh, I was going to say, my wife and I have sold quite a bit of things on eBay to kind of supplement our own income. And it's a good way.
You know what? I would wish that someone could take on her whole everything. Just ignore that phone. That's actually the HFJ's phone. Just interruptions. I guess you can always edit this out.
Yes,
Sorry, let me shut the volume off. My mom doesn't know anything about internet except to how to search Google. And she has her own iPad, but she doesn't have a smartphone. She has one of those phones that open up and they have giant numbers on them. And then she calls people. Right. So she doesn't really know how to do that. She's 84. Yeah. But she's really smart. My mom's all there. She's like very sharp mentally. So my dad left that. I mean, that was it. He spent all of his money on antiques. I never had college. Neither did my brothers and my sister. So I was really embittered towards that. And I was mad at my father. And I was like, I want to go to college. That's not fair. I wanted to go to music school. I was really interested in learning how to play the piano, and I could play guitar, even though you see my nails on. I'm not really doing guitar right now, but I actually learned how to play some rock music I had a Fender Strat, a 1984 Fender Stratocaster. It was white with a black, what is that plate on it? What is that called? The pick guard. And long story short, that got stolen. The police broke into the police broke into my old apartment with my ex-trafficker and took all my instruments. And that was one of them. I looked up now what it's really worth. It's worth about $3,500. I'm like, no, I paid like $400 for it. It was like brand new. I put it on payment plan. So yeah, things that you learn later in your life. So I ended up I was living in Wisconsin with my parents. And the day after I graduated high school, I went to Minneapolis to move back into Minneapolis and I moved in with my sister, and I got, believe it or not, 3 jobs. I mean, I can't believe I did this. Like I literally was working day and night, no breaks. And I started going out to the nightclubs because I felt super stressed out about it. And my girlfriend and she was friends with one of my best friends from school. So we went out to the clubs. We had a fake ID. And one night we were out at the clubs and we met these men that they looked like they were very wealthy, and they looked like they were very successful, and they were dressed very nice, and they had cash, and they were wearing diamonds and designer shoes. And I probably should have noticed something was weird about it because they had furs on. And they also had like sunglasses on at like 11 o'clock at night.
They had furs, like animal furs?
Real. Fox and a mink.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. My girlfriend starts dating one of them. And the guy that was talking to me, he actually was a pimp here in Vegas. I was like, he is not good looking. And I told my girlfriend, I'm not talking to that guy. He's ugly. And we didn't think they were pimps at the time. They were supposedly car dealers and real estate moguls. Like they own property, right? My girlfriend calls me up from Hawaii because her boyfriend, I'm just saying, like, AKA trafficker.
Yeah.
Brought her to Hawaii, and one of his good friends had a girl that was their main girl in the stable of the trafficker and all the girls that were being sex trafficked. And so on the street, you call it the pimp and his prostitutes, right? And if you really want me to get straight with it, Daddy Mac and his hoes. Okay, let's just keep it real. Okay, that's the kind of street language that I was around. And she taught her how to sell herself. And she called me up and said, girl, you're never going to have to make that little tiny money you're making anymore. I found a way to make really good money. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is it? And wow, you know, I mean, $500, $1,000, $2,000 an hour. And by the way, just remember that the economy was way different back then. If you go back on a calculator and you look up 1986, 87, you will see how much money that's really worth. So if you put in $1,000, it's $2,000. So getting 500 or 1,000 an hour. Yeah, it was a lot of money back then. It's a lot of money now, but it was a lot of money back then, like double. Yeah. So
I was sorry. Say no. I know. I was just curious about your friend's point of view, because whenever I've heard you talk about this in interviews and in your book, and for me, it just seems like her being in that situation, her calling you, was that something that she was, was she recruiting because she was trained to recruit, or?
No, not at all. She was doing it as a friend, and she loved me, and she wanted me to make money like her. And at that point, he wasn't abusing her yet, and she was controlling all the money. It was his way to get her in. He was reeling her in, you know, grooming her to accept what she was doing. My girlfriend we're friends to this day. She's an amazing person. She helps kids now. She's an incredible woman of God. She really is. And anyway, so now she was making the same amount of money, I think, as I was. It was very small amounts. She worked for a company that was super famous, a car company. I don't need to say the name, but she had quit her job in Minnesota too. You know, her and I both, we were like, hey, we need to make money. And she was driven, like she liked to make money just like I did. And she wanted nice things. So to get this lifestyle introduced to her it was like, wow, there's a world like this that you can make thousands of dollars. Oh, wow. And you don't really have to do very much. You just got to like strip dance a little bit. I'm in. You know, because I was already kind of conditioned I had already been date raped so many more times than I can count, because I would drink and then sometimes they would sip GHB in my drink, and I don't remember anything that happened. I'd wake up and it would be there. I would be like, what just happened to me? I don't remember anything. But I woke up pregnant one time. I'm not kidding you. With disease one time. I'm telling you, getting date raped is real. And so for me to take my power back, that's the whole thing. To take your power back is to charge money and to be sober doing it. Charge, take your power back, control the man that abused you, and now you win. That's what they sell to you in the sex industry.
Wow.
Even though that's not the exact words that were used, my mind told me this. Like it was like, yeah, men are idiots. Men are all tricks. Men are all marks and jokes. I'm just going to get paid for this. That's what I'm going to do. So that's what I did. It was an easy fit for me. And I didn't have a trafficker. No, it was just me, myself, and I. And it was my decision. And I went and I sold myself. And then I got back to Minnesota. I quit all 3 of my jobs. And I started working the escort services in Minnesota, which was super weird. Like I would go on calls on 494 at all the major hotels there in downtown Minneapolis and downtown St. Paul. And that was before Mall of America was there, by the way. Some people are like, well, where's Mall of America there? No, it wasn't even. There was plans, but it wasn't built yet. Okay, y'all. So they had a lot of money, you know, out by the freeway, and usually downtown it was a businessman that would call. But I had a couple calls that I went on, believe it or not, in Edina. I went to wealthier parts of the state, and these men got violent with me.
Wow.
One pulled a knife on me. It had razor edges, like the little chigger things on it, like the little teeth on it, like a machete. And one guy pulled like a shotgun on me one time, a double barrel shotgun. Scared the bejeebies out of me, so I quit the escort services. And I started dancing at the strip clubs at a company called Party Time. Virgil and Sil were the bosses. And Virgil was this big trick / pimp. And he was this old white man. I mean, total gangster. Like he passed away, but Virgil had about, I don't know, 500 dancers or so, maybe
Wow.
300. I can't remember the number. And he would put all the dancers across the state in Wisconsin too. And he would ship them out to different clubs to dance. And he had the contract for each club. So whatever we got paid, like we got a base fee to show up for the set was $25 or $50. I can't remember exactly what it was. And we would have to do 3 to 4 sets on each club. And then we would go to the next club. So I usually had 2 to 3 clubs a night I'd work at. I'd just travel. And I had all these fans follow me around from club to club. And they would request, where's Fallon? And they would call up the agency. Hey, Party Time. Hi, where's Fallon dancing? Oh, okay. And then they'd show up at my shows, the same guys. It was like super weird, but it was a steady income because I had the same guys tipping me. It was weird. And so I thought, whoa, I'm gonna see if these guys want sex. So I started propositioning them, right? And I thought, well, maybe if these guys are safe, I can, like, since they're following me around, they must be safe. I can charge them. So I started doing that. And one night I was working at it was called the Skyway Lounge at the time. It's now called Spearmint Rhino on Hennepin Avenue, Minneapolis, downtown Minneapolis. And this guy walks in, and that was it for me. Like, he was so good looking and he had a bunch of money, and I fell in love with him. And I had no idea, but guess what? He was a trafficker. He was a pimp, straight up pimp. He was a drug dealer, pimp. And I had no idea. He had a bunch of underage girls at the time. He was dealing cocaine. And I found out he was dealing cocaine. I didn't know about the girls. I knew that he would talk bad about other women, and he would say, oh yeah, she's dumb, she pays me. And I'd be like, well, I would never pay you, because I would never be with a pimp, and I would never give a man $1 of my money. And I totally was insulted by it. And he just he wouldn't say much. He'd say, yeah, you're smart. And then by the time we got down to Las Vegas, which was probably about, because our relationship happened in the summer. I remember going to Lake Calhoun and Lake Nokomis at night, which they don't call it Lake Calhoun anymore because they changed the name, because they said the guy that actually named the lake was prejudiced or something. So he was a white supremacist supposedly. So they changed the name. I don't know what the new name is, but I would go there at night and sit by the lake with him, and we'd make out or whatever. And all that to say, I went to Las Vegas with him because my girlfriend, her pimp, had a house in Vegas. So we went to Vegas, and the first night that I signed up for the escort services, he beat me down and told me that he was my pimp. And that was it. And that's how I got into the sex trafficking part of the sex industry.
So is that what these pimps do? They pretend to be boyfriends of just different girls?
A lot of them, yes. Not all, but a lot of them do that. Yeah, that's the best way. Usually when a young, because I was still a teenager when I met him, usually when a young girl or a younger woman meets someone that is a potential trafficker, there will always be a relationship before. There will always be some sort of friendship, or some sort of trust has been established, or there's been some sort of job being offered, or a romantic relationship.
Can I ask, is it because of that relationship? Is that the reason why at that point you didn't just walk away at that point when he started saying he was your pimp? And I know in your book you talked about how you said to break yourself and give him all of your money. Why didn't you just walk away at that point?
Well, that's a great question, because listen, traffickers have these tactics that work very well, because they brainwash you and they coerce you, which is they trick you and they put you in a position where if you do leave, you'll get hurt, or your family members will get hurt, or they'll stalk you and threaten you. And usually it's bodily harm with a weapon. So he did have guns. And since he beat me down the way that he did, and I was terrified, by the way, I had never had anyone touch me or beat me like that in my life. My girlfriend told me I looked like Frankenstein. Now, I did have him beat me like that later in our relationship as well. But this first time was a pretty bad shocker. I couldn't recognize myself in the mirror. I had never, ever seen myself look like that. My eyes were shut like that. I couldn't even open them up. They were so puffy. And then when the swelling started going down, the black eye and the bruising all over my face was so intense. Like, it was just black. Everywhere was black. I mean, it's kind of like darker, even darker than my nail color. And my eyes, inside of them, they were red. The blood vessels had broken. So on the side of my iris of my eye, the white part, it was all red, like solid red. I looked like a monster. I really did. And
the way that they control and manipulate is just so, it's appalling I can't even understand the mentality there. I was in Guatemala with my wife. This is a couple years ago. And there's a place where there's a lot of sex trafficking in Guatemala, and they have they're basically train box cars just all in a row, and they just have prostitutes in there. And we went there with
sex trafficking victims.
Yeah, sex trafficking victims.
Everyone, when they hear that word, I just want to just say something. When they hear the word prostitute, they always think it's a choice. So that's a dangerous word to use nowadays anyway. The language has changed lately. So yeah, prostitutes.
Sex trafficking victims.
Yeah. Usually they're sex trafficking victims. I don't even want to say the word sex worker, even though on my old website, we're cleaning it up now from 10 years ago. And, 7 years ago, even I have the word sex industry, but I also have the word, I think I still have it. I think I'm going to change it though. Sex workers. We help sex workers. No, I don't like that word. That word's really, really demeaning because sex is not work.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. Like we went there, and there were all these sex trafficking victims in these cars, and I went with a group of missionaries, and the women brought flowers, and they went into these box cars with these women, and my wife went in, and she gave a flower to one of these victims who was there. And this woman, when my wife went and started telling her Jesus loves her and just explaining the gospel to her, this woman broke down. And she told this story of how she had come from the Dominican Republic. She had been offered a lot of money for jobs. She thought she was coming to clean houses.
Absolutely.
And whenever she arrived at the airport, they took her passport and took her son and had her son in another location and told her that if she didn't sell her body, they would kill her son. And she had been there ever since and only got to see her son every now and then to prove that he was still alive. And that was how she controlled him. Oh
my God. Exactly. You know what it says in Ezekiel 34:16? I will seek the lost, and I will bring back the strayed, and I will bind up the injured, and I will strengthen the weak, and the fat and the strong I will destroy. I will feed them in justice. So obviously God is saying there, the people that are being greedy, that are controlling others, and the people that think that their control is making them stronger, justice is coming, baby. Because you're gonna, you know what? Any imbalance, God is he's the equalizer. He is our equalizer. So you, the team, your wife, going in those cars, giving someone a rose saying, you are worthy, you are beautiful. You're starting the balance because you're showing there's love for you still. Even though you're stuck in this situation, God sees you and he wants to help you.
That's right.
Tell us what we can do. Because listen, here's the thing. They want to get away. Like you talked about that girl, her son. How do you get away unless you have a special ops team to go in and retrieve her child first and yank her out?
Yeah, that's right.
Because if she leaves, her child dies. So how do you win? I mean, these traffickers are really crafty. Now with me, the second trafficker that I was with, but by the way, he was in a show on the Strip, a very famous show that is no longer around. He lost his job and started living off of me. And just, and he was already abusive anyway. He was locking me in his house. It's a long story, but it's like the psychological part of the damage that happens to trafficking victims is horrendous. And this is what he would do with me. My sister had passed away, so he had recorded a bunch of our phone calls. He recorded me regardless without me knowing it, but he had calls of my sister and I talking and hanging out on the phone hours at a time. My sister lived in Minnesota at the time. My sister died of an aneurysm in her heart. She had aortic valve explode. She had Marfan syndrome. You know the lead singer of Mice and Men?
Yes.
So he's a Christian now. He left Mice and Men. He had to quit because of he has Marfan syndrome.
Oh,
like
wow.
really bad. It's affecting his health. I think
Wow.
he's already had his first heart operation, but all that to say, he also had pictures of her and videotape that I took. Letters, things that she had given me, and he had locked them all up, would not let me access them.
Wow.
He held that, and she had passed away. That was all I had left of her. And I loved my sister. She was my best friend. Okay. She didn't know I was working as a trafficking victim because I'd never had the guts to tell her. But she knew the guy I was with at the time, and she did not like him. And she said, Annie, he's going to hurt you. There's something wrong with him. She saw it. She saw it from way far off. But he held that over my head. You know,
Wow.
my birth certificate, my social security card he had. I mean, he had my things.
Wow.
So if I tried to leave, he held that over my head. Oh, and artwork that I did. I had artwork.
Wow.
That I could never replace, that I actually, because once you do a draw, because I like to draw when I have time, and I'm an artist, and to hold that over my head as hostage, to know that I'd lose that, my artwork, pictures of my family, that, and my cat, by the way, he had my kitty cat, Lexi.
You had your cat?
Oh, my cat was beautiful. Oh, I had to leave her behind. Okay, if you ever picture a white owl with the black flecks in it,
Yes, I've seen
a
that.
snow owl, she
Yeah.
looked like that, and she had gold eyes, and her hair, she was in Angora. So I shaved her body like a lion, and her mane would go like this. And she was the most smart. Oh, I love my cat. I know she's in heaven.
Wow.
But he wouldn't let me take her with me, and held her over my head that, well, I'm going to do something to her if you don't. I mean, just, it was awful. If you don't come home. And I finally left. My brother came with a shotgun. My brother Chuck came with a 30-06 deer rifle, and he helped me get my stuff out of the house. And he held the gun.
Yeah.
He had the gun in his hand, and he just was like, go ahead and try something. And I got away.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you about that, because I know obviously they hold a lot of things over you, and a lot of these trafficking victims, whenever they do get out, like in your situation, are these victims, because I know they come to Destiny House, which is the ministry that you lead there. When you bring these victims into your home there, into the ministry home, are they in danger for a period of time, or how does it work? How do you get them out of there and put them in a place of safety?
So the clients that we work with, everyone has a different story. So some have more danger than others. Some of the clients that we help there's an immediate danger, like where they can't even leave where they're at for a while, and they can't really even go anywhere. They're afraid to. And then there's clients that we help that their danger has passed them, and they have not been in danger of their trafficker for a couple of years, and they're just trying to get their lives together, and literally nothing's been working. We are basically the final stop for them on which is great, because try Jesus and just see what happens, because he always makes things amazing. But so definitely sometimes there's traffickers in other states. So some of the clients come here from other states, and they get help that they need because their trafficker's looking for them in another state, and they don't know that they're here. And vice versa. Sometimes we'll have a client, we'll ship her to another state, to another program, because we know to keep her here is way too dangerous. Yeah. We're in a part of Vegas that no one knows where we're at. It's very far from the Strip. So we're in a very rural area that nobody would guess. It's totally like secret, top secret.
Yeah, I understand. I understand. Do a lot of these victims, because I know you in your story, God, it seemed like God was pursuing you during this whole time that you were being trafficked. I remember you in your book, you talked about one point where your trafficker put you in the trunk of his car with a body bag and a shovel.
Yep.
And I found this,
Gloves,
yeah,
ropes,
I found it
gags. Yeah.
fascinating because he's in the car and you started singing Jesus Loves Me.
Okay, he wasn't in the car. What
Oh, he
he
wasn't
did
in the car.
was,
Okay.
yeah, he put me in the trunk and he had tied me up and he put socks in my mouth, like a big ball of white socks, like athletic socks, so I couldn't talk. So it's like somehow I got it out of my mouth, somehow I pushed it out, but he started the car and left into the kitchen, shut the door, the garage is closed. And I just thought, you know what, man, I'm going to die. I started praying and I started singing Jesus Loves Me. He heard me singing. I was singing loud too. I was like practically screaming it. And he popped the trunk and he said, you can probably bleep this out, but he's like, you're crazy. Get out. And he untied me and undid my everything. And I sat down at the couch and he took off on an airplane.
Man, see, that reminds
And
me
I left.
that reminded me so when I
I
read that, it reminded me so much. We had a team of missionaries that was going to Guatemala, and they were on a bus but on the border of Guatemala. And whenever they got there, a rebel group, they like a squad. They have these rebel squads that come out and they surround the bus, start shooting at the bus. And these two guys get on the bus and grab one of the young girls. It was a lot of it. That's how they do a lot of human trafficking, kidnapping there, the ransoms, all that. They grab one of the young girls, young missionary girls. She's probably 18 years old. And they start dragging her off the bus. And her and everyone on the team started singing a worship. I don't know the exact song, but they started singing a worship song as loud as they could. And those two men, the Holy Spirit hit them in such a way that they just let her go and ran off the bus. And they actually ended up getting shot down by the police when they got off the bus. But there's so much power,
Whoa.
even though you were being trafficked and you were in the situation you were in. I was like, that's the power of the gospel right there. You start singing Jesus Loves Me, and God used that. And I don't know what was going through your trafficker's mind. I obviously don't know all the details,
I'm
but
going to tell you what, I don't know, but I do know this is what was going through my mind. I thought this was it. I'm going to die. Like, this is it. To have that type of fear inside your heart, I can't describe it. It's like, that's it. And you see your whole life flash before your eyes and you're like, you know what? I really messed up. Now, do you think I got out of the business? No, I didn't. That did not shake me up enough, apparently. You know what it was? It was my pride. I just didn't want to quit because I was away from him now. And I was like, I'm going to get the money. I had given him thousands I mean, if I could calculate how much I gave that particular trafficker, it's in the millions.
wow.
At least $3 million or more dollars in today's money, right? If you just double it, like it's so, maybe even more than that. Actually, it's more than that. So if I look back and I think about, this is the part that sucked me in the industry, is looking back, thinking all the money that I made that he got, that I didn't get to control or do anything with, that I didn't get to invest in me. It was no college. It was no house being bought for myself, nothing to better my life. I was very upset about that and very regretful, and regret and guilt drove my heart to stay in the industry. And so I thought, I'm going to do it better this time. I'll just do it by myself. But I had nobody to motivate me. It was really awful. And then I got with another boyfriend and he turned into my trafficker. So it was like, I didn't even look, I wasn't looking for a trafficker. This guy turned into a monster, the second guy. And
Wow.
so it's really hard when you're that vulnerable and you're just so alone and you feel alone, and basically I always felt like every man that I met, if I loved him and fell in love with him, that it was my home and my safe space. So the love that I needed from my real father, I think, was being recreated with my trauma, with each guy that I was with. it's really sad. When I look back now, I realize, and I'm like, man, what was I thinking? And you don't know what you're thinking at the time, because trauma is really insidious. It's so deep rooted that your body's reacting to it. It's reacting, it's reflexing from it. It's not normal the way that you're responding to people and reacting. So you don't even see that you're doing it because you're so emotional all the time. And when you're very emotional, there's days where you're numb and you're not emotional at all, and you're just doing things like a robot. So it's, like I said, it's insidious. It's in uncontrollable type of your brain. Your brain is like multifaceted, but it's neuroplastic. So it's moving in different places, but it's not normal because your amygdala is enlarged. When you have trauma, your amygdala is probably, it's the middle part of your brain where processes all your emotions. Your cortex takes all the information in and thinks about it and has all the reasoning here. Then when it passes that area, there's a middle part of your brain called the amygdala. It's probably about this big. When you have trauma, it goes like that.
Wow.
And it takes over the whole brain, and it starts controlling your cortex. It doesn't matter what you see or what you take in. It reacts emotionally, and it says to you, that's dangerous. Don't do it, or do it, jump. It's this fight, flight, or freeze fawn reaction. The fight is you want to fight everyone that comes to try to help you or not help you. You'll fight them anyway, right? And then the flight is you run from everything that you think is dangerous, or you run from something that looks safe because it's not normal to you because you're used to stuff that's dangerous, right? And then freeze is you just don't know what to do. You're frozen, you're numb, and you're afraid. And so you just stay, even though you know it's so dangerous. You just know it's dangerous, but you just stay because you don't know what else to do. The fawning part comes in the Stockholm syndrome. So fawning is when you know where you're at and you realize that you're in a dangerous situation. You know that it's bad. You want to get away, but you're playing the game until you can. So it's called fawning, AKA Stockholm syndrome. And you are actually, sometimes you can be in love with your captor. I was in love with both of my traffickers. The first one more than the second one. And then you're staying out of guilt too. So that's that Stockholm syndrome, where your kidnapper now becomes like your lover, even though he was supposed to be your lover in the first place. So it's just really.
Sorry. Do you find that a lot of the people who are trafficked, these victims, they come from broken homes and abuse? I was reading about that earlier today, and they're saying a very high percentage of human trafficking victims, a lot of them come from foster care or some kind of abuse. Is that correct in your?
Yes. And to just know this is that 80-90 some percent are sexually abused as youth or younger first. So I was sexually abused between the ages of 8 and 9, even in between that and before that, and then after that as well. So that also sets someone up to be very vulnerable towards the sex industry itself, and running away. Just all these different codependency mechanisms that we have because we're abused. We're codependent on people. We're codependent on whoever gives us attention because we've never had the right attention that was normal. Wow. Real love and attention is a family available, a mother and a father. It's the nuclear family that a lot of Americans are unfortunately trying to destroy right now.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's so important that we have that we have love, nurture, being there, being present. Complex trauma is simply caused by abandonment. It's caused by verbal abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, irresponsibility of a parent. Being an addict can cause a child to actually come into complex trauma. And some people say, well, what's the difference between complex and PTSD? Well, PTSD, it's a very bad thing. Obviously, we know that it's from war veterans, post-traumatic stress disorder, and it's anxiety attacks. It's hypervigilance, where everything is an emergency, everything's a threat to you. You've heard story of the veterans where firecrackers on 4th of July. They have to lock themselves and put headphones in or whatever because they can't hear it because it reminds them of war. They get shell shock, right? And some of them will reenact some of their stuff because it'll trigger them. Well, complex trauma is to a whole nother level, because complex trauma is PTSD, because any instant that you're being abused, it's being repeated over and over and over and over. Now, a prisoner of war can actually have complex trauma if he had been stuck in a situation that he couldn't leave and he was a prisoner of war. Let's say he was in a foxhole for like 2 weeks straight and couldn't leave because there was bullets flying, and he drinking out of his canteen and eating, whatever his little portions was to eat. And I'm sure that they have themselves been, exposed to that type of torture. So they also can develop complex trauma. So complex trauma is trauma that is repetitive in nature. It's evil in nature. It's dangerous. And it's a cycle that you can't get out of. And what happens with it, it creates all kinds of different mental health issues, including physical health issues. And one of them would be, and I'm just going to throw it out there, bipolar, major depressive disorder, anxiety, hyperactivity, ADHD, oppositional defiant, codependency behavior, right? I mean, this is just a tiny little list of the things that it can create in a person. Wow. And so to me, any type of PTSD and complex trauma, it's a national health emergency as far as I'm concerned. Look at what we're going through right now with COVID. And I don't need to say anything else, but all this stress, all this pressure, to survive in our country right now. It's like, this is creating, I believe right now, a lot of anxiety. Yeah. And it does, like, I'm telling you, complex trauma can actually create a scenario where you don't want to live anymore. I wanted to die. I have a lot of friends that committed suicide. I have so many stories about suicide with complex trauma, because you feel like you're the fault of it. You feel like if I wasn't such a bad person, they wouldn't have abused me. I mean, you start blaming yourself. If I wouldn't have chose this dangerous person, that I never would be abused. So then you blame yourself still, even if you're not the person that started it. Like, you still think you're the fault. And so one of the things is suicidal ideation. Definitely, that's another mental health disorder from complex trauma.
Wow.
Pretty sad. And the rate of women, and I would say clients, getting away from their traffickers and making it out fully recovered holistically is between 1% and 3%. Wow. It used to just be 1%, but it's raising a little bit now, because I think of all of our agencies. And like you said, you were down in Panama, and your outreach and your mission trip heard about us through another organization because they were inspired by us, which I had no idea, which is so cool, because at the time that we started Hookers for Jesus, the first outreach I did was in 2005. There was nothing like us out there, nothing survivor led. There were no agencies that helped women that were trafficked that I know.
Well, I can tell you that, because I lived overseas from the time I was 16 until I was in my early 30s. And there was a period of time, I want to say it was about 2008, 2009, when throughout the missions community, international missionaries like myself, there was a whole movement of human trafficking ministries that were being birthed. And
wait,
a lot
how old
of them,
are you?
I'm 35 right now.
Okay.
Yes. And so,
you're young.
yeah, I know. I started, I've been in ministry for, this is my 20th year in full-time ministry, but I started when I was 16. So I'm still,
wow.
I'm hoping to get 60 years of full-time ministry in my life. That's my goal. And so, but there was a huge movement, and that there's still a lot of ministries that were birthed out of the human trafficking movement that happened. And a lot of them referenced Hookers for Jesus, because I travel all over the world. I lived in Turkey for 2 years. I go to Iraq. I go to Thailand. I go to all these places where there is a lot of human trafficking. And you probably don't know this. You would probably be shocked at the amount of people who know about your ministry that probably never speak to you personally about it, because they don't know you personally, but they know your ministry.
Wow.
They know what God is using you for.
Well, it's crazy, because the first documentary that I ever did was a documentary in Germany, I think. And I did one for Spain. I think I did 2 for Germany, maybe 3. 1 for Spain, maybe 2. It's been, Switzerland. I did one for Italy. before United States. So maybe that's why Europe might know who I am.
Yeah, it could be. So I know that you have a time. I know you have things you got to do, and you have time restraints and things. So could you please just share about how you came to the Lord and all? You go through this whole story. How did you end up coming to Jesus and starting Hookers for Jesus?
Well, again, like I said earlier, I believe that Jesus was with me the whole time I was working, even though I wasn't with him. Like he still was like, Holy Spirit was hanging out and the angels were around me, and Jesus was like, I'm just waiting, just waiting. I'm like looking at my clock, like when's she gonna surrender to me? And the night that it happened was actually August 2nd, 2003. And I actually have the hospital bracelet from that night because I overdosed on cocaine, and I was having a major heart attack, believe it or not.
Wow.
And the ambulance came, and I was like, this was it for me. I thought that was it for me. Like I was done, that God was going to just take me home. And I thought, there's no way I can go out like this. I can't. I saw a vision of myself in a coffin. I think I had a near-death experience because I was seeing myself in this coffin, and I was not very conscious for some of the time that was happening because I was coming in and out of consciousness. I remember opening up my eyes and everything was black, and I don't know why I couldn't see, but I guess sometimes when you're having a heart attack, it cuts off your eyesight. Did you know that?
I did not know that. No.
So maybe because I lost oxygen. So I saw my coffin and my parents coming to see me and my friends, and they were just shaking their heads. She was just a prostitute. Look at her. And I just was like, Jesus, please help me. Please help me. And I prayed and I said, Jesus, I really mean it this time. I'm done playing wolf, crying wolf to you. This time I'm done. Like I am out of this completely. I am never, ever going back. And that's what I did. I cried out. And I went to the hospital, and Jesus, I'm still here, duh. And I literally had this peace that came over me that I just was like, oh my gosh, Jesus is real. And literally when I got out of the hospital, I was laying in bed and I couldn't sleep. And I turned on the television, and this loud, older woman was talking with this deep voice like this. And it was Joyce Meyer. I was like, who is this chick, man? She thinks she knows a lot. And I started watching her, and everything she said made sense. And for the first time in my life, I understood God's love for me. Like, I read the New Testament in Italy as a trafficking victim, believe it or not. Came back to the United States. I said a prayer and I said, Jesus, please help me. But I still wasn't out of it yet. I was still really messed up, trying to get my sister's pictures back, trying to get my family's pictures back, trying to keep my cat. Trafficker looming that stuff over my head, but I wasn't willing to surrender. See, the real way it should have went down, if it would have been a perfect world, and I knew I was being trafficked, right? I would have just said, that stuff's not worth me. My cat, God, you're going to take care of my cat. I'm just going to leave. I couldn't do that. But at this moment in time, when I surrendered my life to Jesus, it was literally like, I felt like bells were ringing in my ear, like church bells. And it was so beautiful. Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to cry. I remember listening to music and listening to Joyce Meyer. And I know this sounds really weird. And she would talk and I would hear like the bells of heaven ringing in the background. And I felt that like the Holy Spirit was tapping on my shoulder. He's like, Annie, this is it. You're going to do something for me now. And I was like, I'm ready. And I think it was like, I had an awakening. That was like one of the best times of my life was that time. It was before I met Oz, obviously my husband that I'm married to now. But I was so open to getting that deep inner healing from the serious complex trauma I had experienced in my life, and the pain and the regret and just the guilt that I felt for living the lifestyle that I lived. And I finally realized that Jesus did love me and forgave me, and he was not ashamed of me. And if he wasn't ashamed of me, I certainly won't be ashamed of myself anymore, And so I just went on this radical hunt, this radical treasure hunt of myself in my heart to get my heart healed, but my radical treasure hunt to find the treasures of God that was in his word to tell me what the next step was for me in my life. And that looked like total surrender, total obedience. It's like that song from Stryper, take it to the cross, take it to the cross, take it to the cross, bang, bang, take it to the cross. I mean, I literally was like, take it to the cross, take it to the cross. And I was like, Satan, get behind me. I bind you in Jesus Christ, you know? And so I ended up basically going to church, and I moved out of the place I was living at because that was kind of abusive as well. The roommate that I had at the time. And I finally got, moved into the first Destiny house in 2008. And that's really when the biggest part of our ministry started. But Hookers for Jesus was actually the first start of it was in 2005. And I started bringing the girls to church and helping them with like their phone bills, giving them rides places, helping them escape their traffickers, showing up at their house, their pimps on the inside, yelling, screaming, we're pulling off. I mean, I was doing crazy stuff back then, which I don't recommend anyone doing that because I was by myself. But I formed the nonprofit finally. It got accepted. And I started to just really press into, what do you want me to do now, God? And at the time, the church I was going to had a intern home that they weren't using. And they said, hey, do you want to use it for Destiny House? Because I had told the pastor about the idea in 2007. And I said, yes, I do. So that's what started Destiny House. We're not there at that place right now. We're on a different property. Praise Jesus. We've been at this property since 2013 and we own it. It's
Amen.
on a couple acres, and in Vegas that's a lot of real estate, by the way, because acreage here costs a lot of money. And there's 4 buildings on the property.
That is
and
wonderful.
Guess what, listen, and we have 10 beds and we have actually 11 beds. We're adding 4 beds the next month. We got a grant for our garage, for part of our garage remodel. We have a garage apartment above our garage, and that's where we take anyone that's a brand new client off for COVID, and then we can keep them there for 14 days just to make sure they don't have COVID, move into the regular house later. We actually got a second house called the Dream House. It's going to be off our property, and it's for women clients that graduate this program after a year, and they move there. They'll have their job in their college, whatever they're doing, and they'll live in that place. So less supervised, less more independent living. So we're super excited about that. We have grown. I mean, we have definitely grown. So we're going to add another 6 beds. So then we'll officially have 18 beds.
Wow.
By January. Yeah.
That is so awesome. That is such I know that must be an answer to prayer, because I know for myself, for our ministry, we've been praying for land and property like that for a while. And
thank you. Yes. Now listen, I want a house in Minnesota and Chicago and New York, Florida, and the Caribbean, and California.
Amen.
And one in Texas. Yeah. I want one in Canada too. But anyway, all this to say, I got married in 2009. See y'all? Got a ring. Woo.
Yeah. Oh, I saw it. Yeah.
It's a little heart with wings. Oz Fox from the band Striper, and he and I met on MySpace. And that's what started everything, by the way. I was on MySpace telling everyone about my story, and people went nuts. Like, news people were contacting me, and it's like I didn't do anything to try to like contact anyone to get my name out there. It was literally like everybody was contacting me, which was really, really cool. And I know that's a favor of God. It was definitely not I did not plan this. I swear to you, I did not plan any of this. And the favor was just on my life at the time. It was the weirdest thing. It was such a cool time in my life. And I met Oz in 2007 on the internet. And then we started dating in 2008, and he asked me to marry him in 2008, and we got married. He proposed to me. No, I'm sorry. No, he asked me to marry him on Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2009. And we got married on June 5th, 2009. So I love him so much, and he's like the love of my life. He's my soulmate. He understands me. He's never judged me. My past does not bother him. If I talk about crazy men that abused me, or men that were weird on calls I was on, or I talk about the money I made, or the way the guy acted, and the men that were obsessed with me back in the day when I was working as a call girl, and by the way, I wasn't a streetwalker. Like in the beginning in Hawaii, I walked the street, but when I went to Vegas, I was a call girl. And so I would only like go on calls with their escort service. And I don't know if anyone knows what that means, but I would literally these ads would be placed for my agency that I worked for. And I would get to go on a call, like $250 for the agency fee, and then $500 or $1,000 for my tip, or $150 for the agency fee. It just depends. So that's when I say about a couple $1 million, and double it or triple it, because the agency fee itself was 1/3 of our money, sometimes 1/4 of our money, that I never even just mentioned. The tip was above and beyond. So the escrow service got their money and the phone girl. But when I talk about things like that with Oz, he never gets offended. He's so gentle. He's so sweet. And you guys just pray for him. We were talking about this earlier, but my husband has 2 brain tumors. One's an acoustic neuroma. The other one's a glioma. We don't know if it's a grade 1 or 2. It could be a 3, but we think it's a 2nd grade glioma. Both of them are very serious. He's going to have surgery on the first one very soon. In fact, maybe in November 2020, not that I'm dating things, but here we are. We're coming up to that. And if you're watching this after, I hope that you're praying for him still, because obviously he's hopefully in recovery right now. But one of his tumors is the exact part of your brain where you use your left side, his hand where he noodles on his guitar. He might lose that ability. He might lose his arm, his feeling and his agility, right? I mean, his leg too. He might get paralyzed in his arm and leg, and his ability to recognize me and other people and things and objects, and his reasoning skills. Dangerous, right? The other one, his tumor is an acoustic neuroma. It's in his coachella. So it started out about that big. It's about like this now.
Wow.
It's like elongated. And the doctor told us a couple days ago that the fluid's encapsulating it on his spine now. So he's having a lot of headaches. If he doesn't get sleep and stuff, and he's having a little bit of dizziness, which is a total symptom of the acoustic neuroma, they will have to take out the tumor, and he will lose his hearing on his left side completely. Gone. So he's not very happy about that.
Yeah, of course.
So Oz needs prayer.
Yeah,
Poor Ozzy Bear. I love him very much. And, we've been married 11 years, and you just really, when you say those vows, you have to really consider those vows.
Yeah.
In sickness and in health, till death do us part, right? Like, we literally said those to each other. And man, he said to me the other day, he goes, do you think you're going to have to wheel me around in a wheelchair? I said, yeah, maybe. He was like, well, what are you going to do to me when I can't do things? I'm like, honey, I'm going to help you. Like, I think he's thinking about things like that. Like, he's not worried, but he's just.
Yeah. Yeah. He does. He doesn't want you to have to take care of him, I'm sure.
Yeah. So the things that we need to pray for is total healing and restoration. And I think that other tumor is that we can do immunotherapy, which is they will inject that tumor instead of taking it out completely with his own immune cells. If he's a candidate for the GNA sequence, genetic DNA sequence, not GNA, DNA sequence. UCLA is our doctors. It's a team that they do that kind of stuff. If he is not a candidate, they've got to scoop it out, which is really scary because, like I said, it affects other parts of your body.
Can I pray for him right now, and just anyone who's listening, pray with me? And so I'm just going to pray. Lord Jesus, I just come before you right now, and I just lift up Ozzy Bear to you. And right now we just declare your healing. We declare restoration. We declare and just ask you for wisdom in these doctors, and that their hands would be skilled, but for full restoration. Lord, you know how many times I have seen you heal impossible things. I have seen you heal AIDS. I have seen you heal my wife's pituitary tumor. I have seen you heal things that were impossible to heal. And I ask you for Oz right now, myself and Annie and everyone who's listening and watching this. We pray together for Ozzy Bear right now. We just ask you for mercy, Father. We ask you for healing in Jesus' mighty name. And we thank you for the cross. We thank you that by your stripes, Oz was healed in Jesus' name. And we thank you that you are there in the midst of all of this, and that you are the one to which it is your name to which every knee shall bow, every tongue confess. And that includes every sickness. That includes every disease. We just speak the name of Jesus over Oz in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
Man, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Well, and thank you so much for your time and
Yeah.
for coming on here.
If people want to get hold of me, they can just go to Annie Lobert on Facebook, or you can go to hookersforjesus.net. And then also we're on Instagram, Hookers for Jesus. We're on Twitter, Hookers for Jesus. Annie Lobert on Twitter and Instagram. And of course, don't forget, we got Pink Chair, Annie's Pink Chair. That's on CTN. It's Christian Television Network. You can just go to their website. They actually do live streaming as well, but we post a new episode every week on our Hookers for Jesus page. So they can watch it there too, but those are older episodes. And we have rock stars come on too.
Oh, I know you had Brian Welch on there. That was awesome.
You know who I just interviewed was Cheryl Cooper. She's a friend of mine. Wow. Yeah, Alice Cooper's wife. I'm hopefully going to have Alice Cooper on soon.
That would be amazing.
I'm excited. Like, I haven't asked her yet, but I'm going to. I love it, man. I'm excited about it. I've got a lot of good ideas, and we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm not trying to, like I said, push myself out there, but hey, if somebody wants to talk, let's go. I like to interview people, by the way. I love it. I don't mind being interviewed, but I love interviewing people too. So I love doing podcasting. So we have our little podcast too.
Oh, I know. I've listened to it. Yeah. You're so good. You're so good with people. And yeah, I love it. Yeah. Everyone who's listening, you definitely got to check out Pink Chair and podcast, all of the things that Annie is doing.
Yeah. Just look at Pink Chair. You'll see my little face. So.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Annie. Have a great rest of your day. And we'll be praying.
One last thing. Hold on.
Yeah.
Don't forget, if they really want the whole story and this right here, you guys, go to our website or Amazon. Fallen out of the sex industry and into the arms of the Savior. I'm gonna tell you something, you guys. The original copy was very thick, but the book company, they chopped it down to like that. That's because they took out all the swear words.
All right. It was like 100 pages swear words. Well, I'll put. No, I'm just kidding. I'll put the link. I'll put the link to your book, and for you listeners and watchers, the link to all these things. I'll put them all in the description, so you can go just find them there as well.
All right.
Thank you. Bless you, Annie. And
you too.
God bless.
Okay.